Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Adidas Adios Pro 4 and the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0. So the Cielo X1 2.0 and the Adios Pro 4 are two of the best carbon plate racing shoes on the market. They are two that have launched this year that we've all been really impressed by, all of us who've tested the two shoes that is, and they're certainly worth considering if you're looking for a new racing shoe in 2025. The Cielo is the more expensive shoe. It's £255 or $275. The Adios Pro 4 is £220 or $250. The Cielo is a slightly heavier shoe. It's 214 grams or 7.5 ounces in the UK 9, whereas the Adios Pro 4 is 201 grams or 7.1 ounces in the same size. You've got a 7mm drop on the Hoka and a 6mm drop on the Adios Pro 4. When it comes to the design of the shoes, with the Hoka, you've got a thin jacquard mesh that has a slightly plasticky feel to it, like it's almost been designed to repel water or not absorb water, I would say. You've got a dual density PIBA midsole here with a full length carbon plate running through that, with little wings at around the front midfoot or forefoot area of the shoe to add some stability in that position. Not a lot of stability on the shoe in general because you've got a really big medial side cutout on it and obviously some other cutouts there to help reduce the weight. Then you've got a sticky rubber outsole with good coverage on the forefoot, two strips of rubber at the back of the shoe. And then with the Adios Pro 4 you've got a woven light lock upper, again slightly plasticky feel to it. I think a lot of these uppers now are trying not to retain too much water and add weight to the shoe. Like the Hoka, there's not a lot of structure going on at the back of the shoe there, it's just designed to be very lightweight. You have the full length Light Strike Pro midsole. This is a new formulation of Light Strike Pro compared to the Adios Pro 3. It's a little bit softer and springier and lighter as well. Then you've got Adidas's carbon infused Energy Rods 2.0 running through the midsole to provide the same kind of propulsion stability that you get from a carbon plate. Again, a big medial side cutout on the Adios Pro 4, and then you've got a light traction rubber outsole for most of the rubber you see here. Pretty good coverage on the heel and forefoot with a small section of continental rubber for at your toe off, so to give you the best possible grip in that area.
So in testing, I ran in my regular Adidas and Hoka running shoe size, which is a UK 8.5. That's a US 9 in Adidas and a US 9.5 in the Hoka. On the whole, I found the Adios Pro 4 fit much improved over the Adios Pro 3, but it still has some problems for me. Generally, I found the heel hold reliable, the midfoot lockdown was nice and secure. However, there was one big caveat. I had problems with the length of this shoe in the toe box specifically. The toe box here tapers, I think, and it comes up about a quarter of a size too short for me. So during the marathon test that I did, my big toenails were catching the end of the shoe and I ended up with some of the worst bruised black toenails that I think I've ever had whilst I've been a runner. Now, I'm not the only runner to report this problem, but it doesn't happen for everyone, but I definitely pay close attention to length when choosing your Adios Pro 4 sizing. And even if some other Adidas shoes work fine in your regular UK sizing, which that's the case for me, you might still want to go half a size up. When it comes to the Hoka Cielo X1 2, this also has a very snug fit. It's, you know, if you're going to call it a race hugging fit, it's very tight, it's quite narrow, everything feels very locked in. There's not much clearance towards the end of the toes in this shoe either. Now, I've not gone beyond 90 minutes in this shoe to test that out. I do worry about it over the longer haul, particularly for sort of marathon, but I feel like there's enough flex in these and I want that kind of fit security you get on the slightly wild platform for something shorter. So I would think I would stick to my regular size for anything up to the marathon. For a marathon, I might consider though going half a size up.
So when it comes to fit of the two shoes, I've got a UK 9 in both, which with both Adidas and Hoka is a US 9.5. Interesting, that's the same size obviously across UK and US, but the Adidas does feel a bit more cramped to me. So I nearly always wear a UK 9, US 9.5 with Hoka. It's always fine for me. They've got quite narrow fits, but that's fine for me. I have a narrow shoe and the length has been fine in the Cielo X1 2.0. I've not had any problems with my toes bumping up against the front of the shoe, even when running long distances. I think I've done about a 35k run in this shoe and had no concerns on that front. However, the Adios Pro 4, it looks a similar length and actually probably a bit more roomy than the Hoka in terms of width. I do feel my toes at the front of the shoe, even though we have the same size here, and I think over the course of a long run like a marathon, it could be a bit of a concern for sure. So I think you're probably worth going up half a size in the Adidas if you're looking at UK sizing. I think it'll be fine if you're looking at round the world sizing, but comparing the two shoes, I probably would go half size up in the Adidas, but I wouldn't in the Hoka, even though they are the same size. So even though the Hoka fit is quite cramped, it works for my foot shape, whereas the Adidas, I think you might need a little bit more room in front to stop your toes hitting some kind of trouble if you're looking at really long runs. On to run test then, and I've logged a lot of miles in both of these shoes. I run about 110 kilometers in the Adidas and about 135 kilometers in the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0. I've been using both shoes for lots of my London Marathon training runs. I was actually considering picking between these two shoes for the race itself, but I think the Puma Fast R3 might have come in and jumped the queue. But what that means is I've done several hard long runs in both these shoes. I've raced in both shoes. Well, I've done a half marathon in the Hoka and a park run in the Adidas. So it's not really a race, but I've gone flat out in it, and like I say, done lots of hard training runs in both shoes. I think they're both really impressive, deliver fast, propulsive rides as you'd expect from carbon plate shoes. I think they're both certainly very good options for the marathon and other distances, but there's a little bit of a difference in the ride feel between them. The Hoka, you've got a more aggressive rocker. It feels like a firmer shoe almost in the way it punches you forward onto your toes, gives a really propulsive toe off, and the most noticeable part of the ride for me anyway is that midfoot rocker. You're kind of forced on the landing there. There's not much of a heel going on with the shoe. You're pushed onto that forefoot, then a really fast aggressive rocker off the toes, and you get pushed on your way. It's certainly not a stable shoe or one that I think is as comfortable as the previous model of the shoe or the Adidas, but I have done a very long run in it, lots of hard sections, and I think it was okay, but I think it's one that will probably test the limits a bit for lots of runners if you're looking at a marathon in particular. Like, it's not very stable. The way the shoe is designed almost requires you to run in a certain way to really unlock the best from that rocker, and at the back end of a marathon that might be a bit more of a concern. The Adidas, even not a stable shoe either, but I think it's more stable than the Hoka, and I think it's a bit more accommodating in general. You've got a softer feel, especially as a heel striker landing at the back of the shoe. There's a bit more foam there, and it's quite soft and accommodating. More relaxed ride in the back half of the shoe, and you've still got a very aggressive forefoot rocker on this shoe, but you don't really feel the same oomph from the midfoot that you get from the Hoka, which provides a very fast feeling ride, but like I say, has its drawbacks in terms of making the ride feel a bit more unnatural and maybe less accommodating over the course of longer races, I'd say. It's interesting, the Adidas feels really good at cruising along at marathon pace, and almost feels like more of a cruiser than the Hoka, even though it's the lighter shoe by a fairly decent amount, and it does have that pickup for fast speed. Like, I've done a flat out park run in the shoe and then gone on to do 5k at marathon pace straight afterwards, having also done 5k at marathon pace before the park run in a different shoe. The third 5k of those three, last one at marathon pace, was quite good in the Adidas because I was actually clinging on a bit there and I wasn't really feeling great that day, but it did feel like a shoe that helps you keep ticking over as you start to really tire at the back end of long sessions or races. So even though I didn't think I was running that well or running that fast, I was still able to hold my kind of goal pace in this shoe, whereas I think the Hoka is a bit different. I think if you slip off your game in the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher to keep pushing in. I did do a half marathon in the shoe where it was 2 laps, ran a fast first half, and then second half was a bit more of a drag. And again, even though I was able to kind of cling on and it did keep rocking me through, but maybe it's slightly harder work when you're starting to struggle a bit more, I think, the Hoka than the Adidas, which is some accommodating. As I said, when you are fresh and pushing hard, and maybe for short distance races, I think that really aggressive rock you get on the Hoka pushes it to the fore. It feels very fast and you can run very fast in it, whereas I think the Adidas almost was a bit more relaxed and geared up for those longer distances. So I did a run in both shoes at the same time, and that noticeable midfoot rocker on the Hoka was definitely a clear differentiator between them. It's got that firmer feel than the Adidas. You really don't even notice the heel on the shoe. The bevel is so kind of well designed. You move straight onto that midfoot, then get pushed onto your toes and run on, and it's really bouncy, really fun, really aggressive. Adidas, a bit more relaxed, but that forefoot rocker is very sharp as well. I think it's a little bit more stable, like I say, despite not being very stable, and a bit more accommodating and cruisy, or still having that pickup for faster speeds.
Now, in testing, I've logged north of 50 miles in the Adios Pro 4. I've done around 20 miles in the Cielo X1 2. I'm yet to officially race in either shoe, but I have done a solo marathon test in the Adios Pro 4. I also clocked a parkrun PB in the Cielo X1 2 with a 17:53 5k. I really enjoyed the Cielo for that all-out guns blazing 5k effort that I did. These shoes are a lot of fun. I would describe them as punchy, propulsive, energetic. They're light, they're compact. They've got a nice forefoot landing with that super shoe fit and feel as well. Everything is perhaps a little wild. I'm not sure how much I'd want to run a full marathon in them. I might want something a bit more reliable than you get, a bit more natural underfoot. But when I'm moving well, they work really well with my mid to forefoot style. I think largely because I engage that rockering, which rolls me through really nice. The highly compressive foam as well, I think, springs back really nicely as you toe off. This is a shoe that sinks a lot and then bounces back with a lot of high energy. The Adios Pro 4 is also lively, fun and propulsive, and it's another of the better carbon race shoes. It definitely delivers on energy. It's probably as much in terms of energy as the Cielo, but I think it gets there in a slightly different way. There's much less compression in the foam for what you get is a more immediate return, so it locks in quicker when you land and then returns much quicker. You're not sinking right down and then bouncing back. You've got some serious rockering here too, but I don't find that I engage that quite as much as I do in the Hoka. makes them slightly less smooth for me. In both of these shoes, I find I have to focus on foot placement. But with the Adios Pro 4, I think it has a tendency to want to roll me out a bit to the lateral side. I sometimes feel like I'm working to counteract a bit more foam that lands under the kind of sort of my ball of my foot on the big toe side. But when you hit the sweet spot, these shoes do work. And if you can get the fit right, it's definitely another shoe with PB potential. Verdict then, I think I put the Adios Pro 4 and the Cielo X1 in my top 5 or 6 carbon race shoes. That is quite a long list, I know, but the competition now in this space I think is really very strong. And I think both of these shoes offer good performance, particularly when you're guns out blazing, going for fastest times or doing your very, very fastest training runs. If I had to split them, and this is putting the fit issues that I have with the Adios Pro 4 aside, I think the way that I'd work it out, I'd be inclined to choose the Cielo X1 for going all out at distances up to the half marathon, where that slightly wild, punchy ride that doesn't quite have as much protection, it really performs, but it doesn't maybe look after you as much. But I'd probably reach for the Adios Pro 4 to race a full marathon, simply because there's a bit more protection further back in the shoe, and that could be important deeper into a race if you're landing back on your heels and you're running tired. So if things don't go according to plan, as so often they might not, I think the Adios Pro has probably got your back a little bit more than the Cielo X1 2. Now, if I had to choose one shoe outright, I think my heart would say the Cielo X1 2. It's probably the shoe that I enjoy running in more. My head and my wallet, though, says the Adios Pro 4. I think most runners, that includes myself, are likely to be able to cover more miles in racing and training in the Pro 4 than they are in the Cielo X1 2. Fun as it is, this Hoka shoe kind of feels a bit more sort of race day only, where the Adios Pro 4 probably cover you more for your faster training as well, like longer, faster training marathon runs perhaps. So my favourite shoe of the two is the Cielo, but the one that I probably use more is the Adios Pro 4.
So verdict, and this is a bit of a tough one here. There's a few factors that come into play outside of the performance itself. Purely looking at the ride feel, I think the Hoka is the one that feels faster to me, and the one I'd probably rather have in my feet for shorter races in particular, like 5k, 10k, maybe even half marathon. That rock is really aggressive. I feel like I'm running really well in it when and I do run really well in it because it is so punchy and fast. And when I have then gone even to longer distances, it's been pretty good for me as well. And I do think it'll be a good marathon racer for lots of people. But the Adidas is a bit softer, a bit more friendly, I think, for the marathon distance in particular, a bit more accommodating. That's assuming you get on with the fit of the upper. I think it's a bit more of a comfortable shoe, but certainly is still really fast for short distances. So I think it's probably got more range for more runners, and it's also a fair bit cheaper than the Hoka. So I think it's probably the one I'd recommend of the two shoes because it does work at a really wide range of paces and race distances and is comfortable as long as the upper's okay and is a bit cheaper. But the ride of the Hoka, I think, is a bit more exciting and fun and aggressive to me. I think it is a faster feeling shoe and I really like running in it. And I think if I had to pick between these two shoes for the London Marathon and not gone for the Puma as it's come in now, I would have gone for the Hoka over the Adidas myself. So I think maybe I slide for it myself, but looking at objectively, which is the better shoe to buy, I think it's the Adidas. It's a bit cheaper, a bit more accommodating, lighter, and just a really good shoe that will work for lots of runners. So it's probably the one I'd recommend if you're looking at buying them. But the Hoka shouldn't be discounted. I think it's a fantastic shoe, really good ride feel, but maybe a tad too aggressive for some if you're looking at the marathon. That's a comparison of the Hoka Cielo X1 2.0 and the Adios Pro 4. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.